For most of Raven Software's life, I consistently anticipated their new games. They are known for awesome hits like Soldier of Fortune, but my first set of games from them were their two Jedi Knight sequels. Jedi Knight 2 and especially Jedi Academy allowed players to fully engage with rewarding lightsaber and force-based combat in a fun original story. Throughout the 360 generation, they kept coming out with interesting new games, each one being good to great. Quake 4 I found to be an underrated entry in the series and is a really engaging first-person shooter. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 was the successor to the excellent X-Men Legends games, and while it may have gone a bit too streamlined in some areas, it did have a huge cast of characters, and this pre-MCU game is a gem. In the same year, they released a movie tie-in game and a sequel to the Wolfenstein series. Wolfenstein 2009 is one of my favorite shooters from that generation. Very violent, great shooting with some fun powers and exploration. The movie tie-in game was an excellent surprise as well, as it was an action-adventure title based on the X-Men Origins Wolverine film. They even managed to get Hugh Jackman to come back to voice the character, and while the game had to use elements from the film, Raven managed to create a better story than the film itself. Along with this, it finally gave us an M-rated game where we could finally see what Wolverine's claws could actually do. Now sadly, towards the end of this generation, Raven was more turned into a support staff studio for Call of Duty games. But before this, they made one more original first-person shooter, and I sort of see this as their unofficial swan song. Playing Singularity now, it feels like one of those gems that studios do not want to invest much in anymore. A 6 to 8 hour linear campaign with a strong story and memorable gameplay sequences. Singularity was great when it came out, and it's still great today. Singularity is a story-focused first-person shooter. It wears much of its influences on its sleeve, as you'll see many elements from Half-Life, along with a lot being used from BioShock. Thankfully, Raven does a good job of using those inspirations in a new and original story. From a narrative perspective, it grabs you right from the start, and it's well paced until the very end. Gameplay-wise, you have a nice mix of enjoyable violent shooting, provided with some fun weapons and powers. There are puzzle-like elements here, and while fun, it's definitely an area that I think that could have been expanded upon more and provided more interesting situations in this game. Singularity provides plenty of toys to use, produces more at a steady rate throughout the campaign, and it's a story mode that doesn't overstay its welcome, but instead stays with the player for all the right reasons. Let's start out with the shooting. Singularity operates as you would expect a first-person shooter would be released during this time. What helps to sell the action very well are the distinct sounds given to your weapons, along with the impact being the most satisfying element about it. This all comes from the liberal use of dismemberment. Most weapons can cause arms, legs, and even heads to pop off. This is delightfully over the top and very gamey, and I love it. Shotguns provide a nice pushback as you see enemies being thrown back, and a sniper shot almost always results in a body part being removed. Weapons range from the standard fare like a reliable assault rifle and shotgun to the more unique weapons like a sniper rifle that can slow down time and a grenade launcher where you can manually roll the grenade anywhere on the ground. One of the standouts is the Seeker. This weapon is given its own special set pieces and they are always great. You can aim each explosive bullet and decide who and where you want to hit the enemy. So the shooting is solid with some fun weapons, but there are powers provided to you as well. For starters, you have a force push-like ability, which is great for getting some breathing room when surrounded, or killing weaker foes. You can levitate objects and throw them at enemies. This means that you can pick up explosive barrels and use them as huge grenades. You can also catch an enemy grenade or rocket in mid-air and send it right back at them. Some of your other powers also allow you to create a slow-motion sphere which can trap enemies inside, and you can easily pick them off or use this as a means to escape to a better position, along with being able to turn enemies into mutants to cause more chaos. One ability which never gets old is how you can zap the life out of a soldier and watch them fade away. This can be done to mutants as well and have different death animations. Action-wise, the shooting and powers work well together to create something that you want to experiment with. While this is a linear game, there is enough room to have your own personalization to create a more experience tailored to what you prefer. For example, you can focus on guns or powers, or find a nice pairing between the two. Now outside of the shooting, there's a decent amount of exploration in the form of looking inside rooms or making sure not to miss any of the nook and crannies. This is where you will find extra ammo, health, and E99. E99 is used to provide you with energy that you can slot into different upgrades. This can range from improving your powers, providing you with passive buffs, like more health and even some health regeneration. Weapon upgrades can be found as well and used to enhance your damage, magazine size, and reload time. The powers are also your main means to complete many of the little puzzles that you will encounter. Some are rather straightforward, like needing to create a sphere to allow you to pass, or you need to figure out how to get a crate from one area to another to get up higher. The puzzles are fun, and to their benefit they do not hurt the pacing of the game, but I do think the developers could have gone a bit further when making these puzzles. You have some really interesting powers, along with playing around with time, and I think the puzzles provided only really scratched the surface of using the potential of them. Singularity deserves a lot of praise for its set pieces and memorable action sequences. There's plenty of moments of player empowerment with the use of the Seeker, along with a final sequence that features unlimited energy and an upgraded melee that makes you feel like a god. The entire rail yard is an excellent set of sniper shootouts, with it all ending with a big bug boss fight on a bridge. The fight is very traditional as you aim for the glowy weak points, but the presentation is what elevates it. There's one section where you are bringing back a boat from the past, and you need to fight through it as the thing is aging around you. Thankfully, the story works with the gameplay to keep the player invested. It's important to note too that Singularity is a story that is more a bit old school and that it's more focused on plot rather than on character development. There are a handful of characters here, and they are pretty good, but the real star is the mystery and the main story. It is full of Cold War tension, experiments gone wrong, secret organizations trying to expose the truth, along with time travel. The ending even features a set of a few different choices, and one of my favorites makes me wish that we got a sequel as it sounded like a nice setup for it.
We are mere 12. Our mission is to reveal the truth that's been hidden from the entire world. In the 1950s, a military research base was built on the island of Katorga 12. To this day, the government denies its existence. That is a lie.
Singularity is a great game and one that more people should play, but it does have a few issues. The game is full of audio logs, but you can only hear them if you are next to them. I wish that there was an option to listen to them while exploring. The stop-and-go nature to the audio logs can hurt the pacing. While the knife melee weapon is not in the game long, it has inconsistent hit detection, and I often missed with it since I couldn't really judge its range. Now there are some fun, slick presented cutscenes, used as exposition dumps at certain points in the story. I am fine with the exposition, but the delivery on how they start is a bit lazy. A character in the game will come and say, "Hey, watch this, it explains everything." I just wish that the writing presented here was a bit better. There's a few sequences with ticks and they can do a lot of damage very quickly. Generally, these parts felt cheap. Now, like I mentioned before, I would have liked more interesting puzzles, either through using your powers or your weapons. For example, you use your grenade launcher to open a door at one point, but it's never done again. There was a lot of potential here to do more stuff like this, and I would have liked to have seen them to go even further. Thankfully, the story and general gameplay keeps everything engaging until the very end. Singularity is a criminally underrated first-person shooter. On the surface, you might write this off as a BioShock clone, but you'd be missing out on one original IP made by a studio who used to make some of the best. Singularity provides a good amount of guns, each with great impact, that makes shooting very satisfying as arms, legs, and heads will be flying. The powers allow you to think about the environments in a different way than a normal first-person shooter. Maybe an enemy is coming at you with a shield, and instead of shooting at an opening, you can pick up his shield and fling it back at him, or even use it yourself. The set pieces stay with you and help to provide some big, memorable action moments. The puzzles are short and quick, and while I wish that they went a bit further, they were fun and never hurt the pacing. Lastly, the story sets up an interesting mystery and continues to deliver, ending with a satisfying conclusion. Now, I do think that there is some hope to getting this game remastered or re-released on consoles. Microsoft bought Activision, and I think Activision still owns the rights. So if I was Microsoft, I would re-release this game, as it still plays great great today and would be a great way to allow more people to experience this title. Currently, Singularity can be found on GOG, and if you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.